Hello, welcome to the Thane Friends Podcast. I'm the host, Thane Taylor. I've got Joel with me as a guest, communication coach. You can find him on Twitter at @TheWifeOldSexual. Welcome, Joel. How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. I'm going to tell you like I tell my wife, are you ready for the best 10 minutes of your life?
That's pretty good. I like that. I am ready. Yes, thank you. It is gonna be quick. That's what I say to my wife too. So again, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to come on this brand new podcast that I've got. I gotta say, the first thing that you asked me when I asked you to come on the podcast is, hey, is this gonna be video or audio? So you've got to be a mess right now. What are you wearing right now, Joel?
I actually did a little quick workout, I took a shower. The reason I asked that was because I haven't had a haircut in a month, and so I'm in fuzzy mode. I need to get hooked up. But my office is a mess. So that's why I asked you.
Okay.
I just moved into a new house, and so it's like a bomb went off in here.
Oh my
gosh!
So
that's why I was like, do I need to get a haircut? Do I need to put a cool picture up or something like that?
Yeah, get the American flag hanging behind you.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. How often do you normally get haircuts, Joel?
I normally go once a month. I prefer to go every 2 weeks, but I got to pay for haircuts for my boys too, and I pay for gymnastics and all that stuff. But yeah, so
okay,
once a month.
Awesome. Okay, so communication coach, tell me a little bit about that.
So that basically came from I have gone through some leadership courses, and this woman did coaching with me, and to kind of work through some business stuff. And I went through and I took this profile called the life languages, and how it applied to me in my life. And it was all these kind of bombs went off in my head. It's this is why I do this thing. I'm a guy that will start 17 projects
mm-hmm.
and not finish any of them.
Okay.
And then so I found out why. And then, when you're married long enough, I've been with my wife over 20 years. This will be year 17 that we're married. So we've had lots of arguments, everything you can kind of think of. And then, we were going through a rough patch. And then it was hey, I remember going through this thing. It was really helpful for me individually. What if I, figured out how my wife is like? What her profile is like, what languages she's speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And we found that when we would have arguments, a lot of them were just that I would say one thing, but I had different motivations in mind when I was saying it. So me and you can agree on the color blue, what that is, but there's also other things behind it. So the communication coach really is what I had gone through in my marriage that helped me to avoid a lot of arguments, for us to understand each other, for me to really, really see her and appreciate her. Because my wife is task oriented. So she likes to get things done. Mm-hmm. I don't I like to quarterback it. Hey, I want this and this organized. I'm not the guy to do it. So I was able to appreciate her in a much different way. And she was able to understand me. For me, it was oh, Joel's not being lazy. He's just thinking about how to buy the next house in 2 years, and he's planning all that stuff and the budget. And so we were able to kind of recognize our own strengths and recognize our own weaknesses and give each other grace. And so that's really, it healed our marriage, and it also helps us moving forward when we recognize, he's not trying to do this to hurt me, or she's not trying to do this to make me mad.
Mm-hmm.
She's just being her, she's playing to her strengths right now. And that's a good thing. I want her to do those things.
I like that. When you said you start 17 things and never finish them, that resonates with me so hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I do. So I've got to work on that tenacity, that grit a little bit, and I've recognized that in myself. And one thing with my wife and I, when we used to get into fights like that, we did the love languages, which is it sounds very similar to what you're saying, right?
Love languages is great. I love. So this is another layer of that. So I don't say my thing is the end all be all.
That's what it sounds like you're saying, Joel. That's what
it is. What I'm saying.
Just kidding.
Come with me. End all be all. Come with me. It's not. You're not. It's not going to work.
I like that. No, that's really cool. I got to touch base with you on being able to finish tasks and stuff, because I do that all the time. So Obviously, we don't have
because you're the entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like I got this idea. Oh, this would be a great idea, and this sounds like a lot of fun. I want to do that. That sounds really cool. Yeah, to do that, and then you spend yourself in all these different directions.
Right, I start up businesses, and I get a lot of energy in the first 2 years, the creative phase, whatever. And then once it gets into that point where it's like, okay, well, this is self-sufficient, and it's just paperwork at that point. It's over for me. I'm done with it. So. Maintenance is
boring to you, right? Like I don't want to do the maintenance stuff. I want to do the innovation stuff. I want to be on the front lines and make this thing cool. I got a Slammy here. Dang, what if I made a Slammy a Pokemon ball? That sounds dope.
Yeah. Yeah, how did you know that? That's very specific to what I do. How did you know that?
Communication coach, bro.
Oh, I like that. Hey, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about robots and how they're designed? What the best fighting design for a robot would be?
Never.
Never?
Never. No, I'm not like tech thinker guy. Like I've always like football was my first love, so everything I always looked at was the lens of football. So when I'm sizing things up, like, oh, that guy would be like a great tight end, or this would be a great offensive lineman, or he'd be a great linebacker or whatever. That's kind of how I've never been into like electronics and tech stuff.
So how do you think about athleticism?
So sorry, I messed up your question.
Yeah, apology accepted.
Not
apology accepted. That's
okay.
So what do you think about athleticism? How would you define that?
Really, I have thought about that, because you'd be like, oh, that dude's an athlete.
So the way I think about it, hold on,
go ahead.
I'll go first, and I'll get you like a little bit of time to marinate on that. The way I think about athleticism is, let's say somebody's really good at one sport, but they're only good at that sport by default, meaning the other good athletes are playing other sports, so they can't compete with you in that. Athleticism to me is if you took every single high performer in the world and were playing that sport, how would you compare against those people? And then do that for a multitude of sports, and it can't just be working out. It's got to have some level of hand-eye coordination.
Right.
But that's kind of how I think about it.
I think of I don't think of athleticism in terms of definitions. I kind of think of people to me. The ultimate athletes to me are basketball players. They are big, fast, strong, agile, jump, and I think one of the coolest things. Well, not one of the coolest, but one of the things that I remember was they were talking about Kobe Bryant, and they're comparing him to LeBron James. And the comparison was this, basically, that Kobe Bryant was a great basketball player who was a good athlete, and I mean, by all measures, he's a tremendous athlete, better than 0.0001% in the world, whatever. But they compared him to LeBron. They said LeBron was a great athlete who was a basketball player. And so, to me, a guy like LeBron could have been, he could have been football. If he worked at it, I'm pretty sure he could have done baseball. I just think that type of athleticism it just jumps out at you. And that's kind of one of the things with that, to me, athleticism. It just kind of jumps out at you. I think you wrestled, right? You could just tell, oh, this guy's different. I'm working really hard, and this guy is he doesn't do any of the extra workouts. He doesn't do any of the things. He might have been smoking before practice, but he's over here dusting me, and I'm trying my hardest. It's just the guys are just built different. So I think there is some of that when I think of athleticism. Just this guy's a rare bird. Dudes who would just do backflips out of nowhere. But what the hell, man? Where did that come from? I don't have the guts to do a backflip, but I also don't trust myself that I have the explosiveness to actually get it done. So
I like that.
That's the way I think of athletics. I think of this I think of people and how they stand out.
Thank you, Joel. Is there any one last thing? You've got about 11 seconds to do your most important piece of life advice.
Seek the kingdom. Seek first the kingdom, man. That's it.
For the kingdom. I like that.
The kingdom, baby.
I like that. Well, I appreciate you, Joel. Thank you so much for hopping on this podcast. Officially my first guest for the Thane Friends Podcast, episode 2 complete. There we go.